So let's talk about Shasta County, California. There's a local dispute brewing over a single event that has, well, become a perfect snapshot of the larger divides we're seeing all across the country. This really isn't just a story about a protest. It's about something bigger. Who gets to speak, who gets to use public space, and honestly, whose words get to define the entire debate. And just so you know, all the information we're diving into today comes from the fantastic on-the-ground reporting by the Shasta Beacon. They've been tracking these rising tensions, and it really all comes down to one key flashpoint. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Redding, California, where a planned protest against an event hosted by a conservative group is drawing some serious battle lines right through the community. And this is the message you'd see. It's plastered on flyers, circulating all over social media. It's the big rallying cry for a demonstration aimed squarely at an upcoming event by the organization Turning Point USA. The event they're targeting is a free faith night. It's being promoted as an evening all about inspiration and Christian values. But a local activist group, calling themselves Redding Resistance, is organizing what they're calling a peaceful protest to make one thing crystal clear. They believe this group is not welcome in their town. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you have to know who the players are, right? So let's start with the folks who are actually organizing the protest. So, who exactly is Redding Resistance? Well, they describe themselves as a small, local, volunteer-driven group. It was actually founded by a political artist who moved there from New York City. And while their private Facebook group has just under 400 people, their activism really punches above its weight. They're great at connecting these local issues to much larger causes, like pro-Palestine movements. And when you look at their timeline, you really start to see their strategy in action. You can see how their local rallies, things like hands-off actions or these No Kings events, they often line up perfectly with bigger, nationally coordinated days of protest. So it shows that even though they're a grassroots group, they're really savvy about plugging into these broader movements. All right, so that's one side. Now let's flip it and look at the people hosting the event, the local chapters of Turning Point USA. Now, around here, the local Turning Point presence is mostly student-led. They have active chapters at Shasta College and Simpson University, and their public messaging for this faith night is built entirely on these really positive themes. You know, faith, community, freedom. Their social media is all about celebrating their chapter's growth. But here's the thing. This isn't just about two groups who disagree. The real fight, the heart of the controversy, is about where this is all supposed to happen, a publicly owned venue. So here's the demand from Redding Resistance. They want the venue to cancel the event, period. Their argument is that taxpayer funds shouldn't be used to support what they're calling hate. But, it's not quite that simple. Turns out the city owns the auditorium, but a private nonprofit is the one that actually runs it. And trying to ban a group just based on their political views, well, that's a pretty quick way to find yourself in a First Amendment lawsuit. And this is where it gets a little ironic. Redding Resistance themselves, well, they use public spaces all the time for their own protests, like right on the steps of City Hall. So it definitely raises the question of whether the same rules for access should apply to everybody, no matter what their message is. This whole conflict isn't just being fought on the streets, it's really a war of words. And the way these two groups talk, man, it tells you everything you need to know about where they're coming from. I mean, just look at this. The difference is night and day. On one side, you have Redding Resistance, using this really strong, accusatory language. They're defining their opponents with terms like hate-based extremism and Christian nationalism. And then, on the other side, you have the local Turning Point chapters, and they are sticking to exclusively affirmative language, faith, community, freedom. It's a classic clash, really. Now, it's really important to add some context here. Redding Resistance is using the label hate, but the major watchdog groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League, they have not officially designated Turning Point USA as a hate group. They are often critical of the national organization for sure, but that specific label isn't there. And to make things even more complicated, one of those very groups, the SPLC, has its own critics from all over the political map. For years, they've faced accusations of being partisan and unfairly labeling conservative groups, which makes their own designations a pretty hot topic of debate. So, all of this, it brings us back to this one central question. In an environment this polarized, when you have one group using the language of faith and freedom and another using the language of fighting hate, who gets to define the terms? In a town like Redding, it seems the definition of hate isn't some objective fact. It's the very ground the political battle is being fought on.